Hi, I'm Aimee Cross. Today we're going to talk about building a tree on Ancestry.com. We're going to go through the process step by step, so stay tuned. Before we get into building a tree on Ancestry.com, I want to remind everybody about the giveaway that we're doing to help increase people seeing the channel. The information is in the show notes, and just really quickly, it's going to be to subscribe to the channel publicly so I can see it, and like a video and comment on a video, and then your name gets put in a drawing for an Ancestry DNA kit. So check the show notes for the information on that. So let's get into building your tree on Ancestry, the beginning of a great genealogy adventure. So the first thing that I'm going to have you do is log into Ancestry. If you don't already have an Ancestry.com account, create one. You can do one for free for 7 days, and after that there's a fee associated with the account. Just so that you know, if you build a tree on Ancestry, even if you decide to stop paying for a while, the tree will remain intact. You just won't be able to look at records and look at the images of like a census record or a draft record or something like that. So, but your tree will still be there. So it's not wasted time and it's not wasted energy. And we're going to show you a few things and a few tricks that will help you use Ancestry a little bit more effectively. I think it's the easiest platform for people to begin on. It's pretty user-friendly and I think you'll like it. So let's start. You're going to go to Trees and then create a new tree. And then you'll see a screen like this. I'm not going to put information in my tree of people that are living, but I will be putting in people that are deceased so you can kind of see what's going on. So I'm going to add the home person, which I recommend that you always make your home person you. And they say here, why do they ask? And the reason for that is that then when you see further relations down, it will tell you that this is your second great-grandfather or your first cousin once removed or something like that. So always start with yourself. So you're going to type in your name and your gender and your living. I'm not deceased, I hope. And then you're going to put in your birth date and your birthplace. And for privacy purposes, I'm not going to put that information in right now. Hit continue. And then you're going to add something else to the tree. And I'm going to add my father who has passed away. I'm just going to put in some basic information. He was born in 1940 in Los Angeles County, California. And I'm going to click on that. If I use their suggested places, it's going to help me in searching and help them find hints for me as well later. So I recommend that you always go down and click those suggested places. He just died. He died in 2021 and he died on Camano Island, Washington. So again, I'm going down and I'm clicking that place and I'm going to hit save. After I've inputted 2 people into my tree, it will ask me to name my tree. So I'm going to name my Stevenson family tree teaching, because my other tree is a little bit bigger. And I am going to allow others to view this tree, or I'm going to not. Now, just so that you know, people marked living are hidden in this tree. So because I'm living, I would not show up if I shared my tree with everybody else. But all of the people that are deceased will show in my tree. And this is a way that I can help other people progress with their genealogy work. But it's a personal choice. If you would prefer to not allow other people to view this tree, you can uncheck that box, which because this is a test tree, I'm going to do that at this point. And then you're going to save your tree. Now I'm into my tree. So I have some other information I can add to my tree, but I already have leaves popping up. And we're going to utilize that technology to help you build your tree. And because I want to connect records as much as possible. And so we're going to go ahead and experiment a little bit with this and let you see how that works. So I'm on the profile page of the person now. And if you notice, their birth and death is here. My relationship to him is here. And then if you're not seeing this right here, you can access that by going to Tools and Show Research Tools right here. If I unselect that, I can't see those. I recommend you show those research tools because some of them are pretty nifty. So that's how that is showing right there on my tree. It has his name, his gender, his birth and his death. And then it knows some other possible marriage records and other information. I'm going to go right here to hints. And I'm going to see some other things that are in his tree that Ancestry has identified as possible records for this individual. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos, you know, please don't take these hints at face value and know that they're all true, because they may not be. But they are a great place to start. There's 2 other public ancestry trees that have my dad in their tree. And I am not going to look at those trees, and just for your recommendation, I ignore those right away. And the reason I do is because I want to build my tree on what I know and what I've learned. I may look at them later, but I don't want them to pop up in my hints, so I'm going to click ignore. Now, that doesn't mean that they're gone forever. If you look right here at ignored, and if I clicked on that, you would see that again. So I can go back and look at those Ancestry member trees at a later date. So I'm just going to go back. And I'm going to look at my new clues, my new hints, and we see a photograph of my father for his high school graduation. It was submitted by me. So I can save this to him. I know it's his photograph. And that just automatically put that in his gallery, which is great. Now I have a photograph. In a later video, we'll talk about how you could upload those photographs and things like that. Ancestry is going to automatically maybe put that in his profile picture eventually, but we're just going to skip that for now and go into building our tree. So let's go back to the hints. And I see that he is in the 1940 United States Census. So I want to review this and see if that is my dad. We have the correct middle name, and we have that his father was George Stevenson and his mother was Georgette Stevenson, which is correct. Now, I am not a big fan of this evaluate the record on the right-hand side of the screen. I want to see a little bit more information, and I prefer to do it a different way. You may not. So, but I particularly prefer doing it a different way when I want to attach the record to other family members. So I'm just going to click on it up here at the top, and it's going to make it full screen. Now I still see my father up here. If his parents were filled out, they would show up over here, and as well as I have his children. So that's part of the reason I prefer this screen. So I'm going to look at this record, and the one thing that I want to recommend to you is to always look at the image as well. But first, let's look at the indexed information. I see that George Willard Stevenson was the son of George and Georgette. They didn't have any other children, which is true. My father was the oldest of 3 children. That they resided on Colgate Avenue, and my dad told lots of stories about living on Colgate Avenue when he was a kid in Los Angeles. So right now, this is all looking really good. So I am going to look at this image as well. What I do is I open it I double click, and then I open the link in a new tab. So now I'm going to look at the actual record. And this is one of the other things I love about Ancestry. My family is already highlighted. FamilySearch doesn't do that. Wish they did. But that helps you find the individual when available quickly on the record. It shows here that this was Colgate Avenue and that the address, I'm going to zoom in. Right here I can zoom in a little bit, was 6526 Colgate Avenue. This was family number 511. They rented their home for $55 a month. And the head of the household was George Stevenson. He was 27 years of age, which would put his birth in about, this was 27 at the time of the census. So this would put his birth at about, let's do the math really quick, 1913. And I know that's close. It says Georgette was born in about 1915. I know she was actually born in 1914, so that's close. It says the highest grade completed, which, and that's the other thing I like about Ancestry, is if you leave your marker there for just a little while, it'll pop up with that information, which is written up here, but sometimes really difficult to read. So they both completed high school and completed their senior year, their 4th year of high school. George was born in Oregon, which I know to be true by my family records, and Georgette was born in California, which I also know to be true. In 1935, they both resided in San Francisco. My grandmother was born in San Francisco, and I know the couple met there in San Francisco. So this is all looking great. My dad was 0 months old, 0 out of 12, which means that he was born the month of the census. And if I look up here a little higher and move over to the side, I see that this census was taken April 15th of 1940. My dad's birthday was March 30th. Over here on this side, I see that my grandfather George's occupation was a sales engineer for a wholesale meter business. And then there's some other information in here, and you can look at all that later. One of the other things I want to point out is he worked 52 weeks of the last year, and he earned $2,400 in 1939. That was his income. Those are all kind of really fun facts to have. So I know this record is correct. I'm going to go back to this page, and I'm going to select yes. And there's a couple things that I want to point out to you here. This is the new information to your tree from the 1940 census. And here's the George Willard Stevenson that I have in my tree. Now, we don't have his exact birth date on this census record. We know he was born in about 1940. Now, if I click this, it would change it to that information. I know he was actually born in 1940. And this only says that he was born in California. And then this is the information from the census. It shows that in 1940, he was in Los Angeles County, California. He was single and his relationship to the head was son. Now, if I click this, it says parents of George Willard. I can automatically add them into my tree. So I'm going to click this, and all of a sudden I have George Stevenson as his father. I have his birth in about 1913 in Oregon, with his residence in 1935 in San Francisco, California. He is the head of this family. Now I'm going to click on his wife, Georgette, my grandmother. She was born in about 1915 in California, and all of this information was the same. Her relation to the head is wife. So at the bottom here, I am going to save to my tree. Now, this is pretty cool. I love how this does this. You'll see here in just a moment that now these two individuals with that information have been added as the parents of George. Great. Now, let's see if I have a source that provides a little bit more information about George. I have some marriage indexes. My dad was married a couple of times, but here I have the California Birth Index. So I'm going to review this because this provides his actual birth date. And I'm again going to open that record up so that I can put it in the format that I like. This shows George Willard Stevenson was born the 30th of March, 1940. His mother's maiden name was Paston, and he was born in Los Angeles County. Now, I know that information is correct. My grandmother's maiden name was Paston, and this is my father's birthday. So I'm going to say yes. And now, this is 1940, but this has the 30th of March, 1940. So I'm going to select this, and that will change the birth date to his actual birth date. And I'm going to list that as preferred. If I'm not sure, I could click alternate, and it would keep both facts. And I'm going to save that to the tree. So now we'll see that George's birth date was actually changed to his actual full birth date, and we have Los Angeles County. Now, if I have other information in my record, sometimes the city information will come up. I can put that in there. I can say that he was born actually in Los Angeles County, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to go here to this birth, and I'm going to go here to edit, and I'm going to type in here that he was born in Los Angeles County. Again, I'm going to select their recommended formatting because it's going to help them in searching. And I'm going to write that I know the city per family records. All right, and I'm going to save that. Now I see that that little information that I wrote is in there. It's changed it here. And a couple of the other things that are really cool is if I click on this birth, it's going to show me the two sources that gave me that birth information. And then I can click them and say, oh, it shows his exact birth date from that record. If I click the actual source, it will show what things it is referencing. Okay? Now, let's go into some additional records. I'm going to look at Georgette Stevenson now. There were other hints I could have looked at, but I'm going to skip those for now. And I'm going to look at her hints. Now, we know from George's birth certificate or birth record that her maiden name is Paston. So I'm going to go up here to edit, and I'm going to quick edit because that's going to allow me to change name, birth, and death. And I'm going to change this to Paston. All right, so we're going to look at the hints. And I am going to look at her in the 1930 census. Now, we know she was born in about 1915. She was born in 1914. And we know that this information is correct. And let me show you what I know. I'm going to hit review. I'm going to open up the census record again. And I'm going to open up the 1930 census, opening the link in a new tab. I want to look at this census really quickly and see about the information that is in there. They are on Filbert Street, which actually I know from family records that my grandmother lived on Filbert Street. Her mother actually owned the apartment building they lived in and leased out the other spaces. And so here is Georgette. She's about 15 years of age in 1930, which would place her birth in about 1915. Her daughter, or her sister, Aimee, which is spelled like me, that's who I was named after, is listed with the family. Aimee was older than Georgette, which is true. And Aimee was mom, and George E. Paston is dad. And that is all correct. I know that to be true. Here we show that they owned their home, and it was valued at $65,000 at the time. The other people that you'll notice in the building, here what they do is this was the dwelling number, and then these were all the people that lived in the building. And if you'll see, all the other people in this building were renting, which goes along with my family story, and that she owned it or that they owned the property. George Paston was born in England. Aimee was born in California, but her father was born in France, and her mother was born in France, which I know to be true. So I know this record belongs to my George Paston family. So I'm going to close that out, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to select that this, yes, is my family. Her father is George E. Paston, born in about 1870 in England. That record I didn't show you, that showed that he arrived in the United States in 1891. That gives me some good information. And his wife, Aimee, I'm going to add her into the tree. And then I'm going to add her sister, Aimee. And look at, in one fell swoop, I've added a record to 4 people in my tree. And I'm going to save this information to my tree. So here we have Georgette with her mother George, or her father George, and her mother Aimee. And then if I click on siblings here, it shows her sister Aimee. Let's look at some other hints. Here is her yearbook photograph, which is kind of fun. That's a great way to confirm a picture. I'll review that one really quickly. I want to point out a couple things about yearbooks. Again, I'm going to open it up separately. This is Georgette Paston, who was born in about 1916. And in the 1932 yearbook of Galileo High School in San Francisco, California, we find her. Now, FYI, I know my grandmother went to Galileo High School. She told tons of stories about that high school and that it was located just above the Ghirardelli, and I probably said that wrong, chocolate factory. And of course, in that time period, they did not have air conditioning, so the windows were all open, and she told me lots of stories about how difficult it was to concentrate when she could smell the chocolate. So I know this is her picture. So I want to open up, and I want to actually look at the whole page because they've just narrowed down this picture. Look at this high school yearbook page. I want to look at that picture a little bit closer. And I see that Georgette Paston was the vice president of the student body. She was the vice president of H3, the vice president of L1, I'm not sure what that is, service club, and her ambition was to be a successful secretary. Isn't that great? While I'm here on this page, I want to point out that if you use these arrows on either side, you can see that you can move around in the yearbook. And what if I want to see if she's in the index in the back of the yearbook? So I'm going to go to page 280. I've looked through the back of this yearbook and I am not seeing an index, which was what I was hoping for. You can find lots of family member pictures in these yearbooks and they're really fun to look at. So I recommend that you do that. So let me show you how to change that profile picture. If I click on that, and I can resize the profile picture, or you saw I could change it. I can make this so maybe it's not quite so far away and she's a little bit closer, and just click done. So I would just continue to use this process to build this family tree. I would continue to look at hints, I would continue to add records, and I would compare everything that I'm finding with known family information that I'd gathered from my family prior to beginning my family tree. So I hope this has helped you as you're building your tree on Ancestry. We're going to have some more little lessons about some other cool features on Ancestry, and look forward to seeing those in some upcoming videos. So if you have any comments or any other suggestions, things that you really like about Ancestry, please put them in the comments so that we can share those with other people and they can learn about the things that you like as well. Anyway, please subscribe to the page. You can click on my face right here. And have a great day. Thanks.